Marcus Chen wiped the sweat from his forehead as he made final adjustments to his repair drone. The small workshop aboard his ship, the Rusty Wrench, was cluttered with tools and spare parts, just the way he liked it. Through the viewport, distant stars twinkled against the vast emptiness of the outer rim, where few humans ventured. "Come on, baby, work this time," he muttered, connecting the last power coupling to his latest invention. The drone was his pride and joy, designed to handle repairs in spaces too dangerous for even a human. That was saying something, considering humans were known throughout the galaxy as Deathworlders, creatures crazy enough to survive on a high-gravity death trap called Earth. A sharp beeping interrupted his work. Marcus glanced at his communication panel, surprised to see a distress signal flashing. Out here in the outer rim, distress calls were rare and usually meant trouble. He pulled up the signal details on his screen. Luxury passenger vessel, Starlight Serenity. Complete power failure. His eyes widened as he read further. Loraxian crew. The Loraxians were famous throughout the galaxy for their grace and beauty. Evolved on a low-gravity world, they stood nearly 7 feet tall with elegant, elongated limbs and iridescent skin that seemed to shimmer with its own inner light. They were also known for their advanced biotechnology and their general distaste for primitive species like humans. Marcus checked his position. The stranded ship was only 30 minutes away at full thrust. He shrugged, already reaching for his flight controls. Prejudiced or not, nobody deserved to be stranded in space. "This should be interesting," he said to himself, plotting the course. When the Rusty Wrench dropped out of FTL near the Starlight Serenity, Marcus whistled at the sight. The passenger vessel was a thing of beauty, or would have been if it wasn't completely dark and slowly spinning in space. Its sleek, organic lines reminded him of a giant silver whale, very different from the blocky human ships he usually worked on. He opened a communication channel. "Starlight Serenity, this is independent engineer Marcus Chen responding to your distress call. Do you copy?" Static crackled for a moment before a melodious voice responded. "This is Captain Eloan of the Starlight Serenity. We copy." There was a pause. "You're human." "Last time I checked," Marcus replied cheerfully. "I'm a certified engineer with experience in quantum drive systems. Want me to take a look at your problem?" He heard muffled discussions in the background, catching phrases like Deathworlder and dangerous in the Loraxian language. He pretended not to understand. Sometimes it was useful when people underestimated humans. Finally, Captain Eloan's voice returned. "Engineer Chen, we appreciate your offer of assistance. However, I should inform you that our quantum drive system is highly sophisticated. It requires a delicate touch." Marcus glanced at his newly completed repair drone. "Don't worry, Captain. I can be delicate when needed. Permission to dock." Another pause, longer this time. Marcus imagined the crew debating whether to trust their precious ship to a brutish Deathworlder. But they didn't have much choice. The next repair station was light years away. "Permission granted," Captain Eloan finally said, her tone resigned. "Docking Bay 2 is still operational." "And Engineer Chen?" "Yes, Captain. Please try not to break anything additional." Marcus grinned as he guided his ship toward the docking bay. If they only knew how many sophisticated ships he'd fixed with nothing but human ingenuity and a wrench, this was going to be fun. As the Rusty Wrench locked into place, he caught his first glimpse of the welcoming committee through the docking bay window. 6 Loraxians waited, their tall forms graceful even in emergency pressure suits, their iridescent skin giving off a faint glow in the dim emergency lighting. All of them took an instinctive step back when he cycled through the airlock. Marcus sighed inside his helmet. This was going to be a long day. The ship's engine room was a marvel of Loraxian engineering. Sleek, organic curves flowed everywhere, making human ships look like children's building blocks in comparison. But Marcus Chen wasn't here to admire the architecture. He was following the increasing clicks of his radiation detector. "The quantum drive chamber is through here," said Chief Engineer Vera, her silvery skin shifting colors with anxiety. "But I must warn you again, it's far too dangerous to approach without proper containment equipment." Marcus checked his old but reliable environmental suit's readings. "My suit can handle it." "How long has the drive been in this state?" 15 standard hours, Captain Eloan answered, keeping her distance. "We've tried everything in the manual, but the containment field keeps destabilizing." The radiation detector's clicking grew faster as they approached a sealed door. Through its transparent section, Marcus could see the quantum drive's core pulsing with an unhealthy purple light. The Loraxian engineers clustered behind him made soft sounds of distress. "This is exactly why we needed to wait for a proper Loraxian repair facility," Vera insisted. "No offense, but human technology is simply too primitive for this level of sophistication." Marcus was only half listening. The purple pulse reminded him of something, an old case study from his engineering academy days about Earth's early fusion reactor problems. Has anyone ever tried manually resetting the magnetic containment coils? The Loraxians stared at him in horror. "That would require entering the chamber," one of them gasped. "The radiation levels would kill any living thing in minutes." "Any Loraxian living thing, maybe," Marcus muttered. He turned to face them. "Look, I think I know what's wrong. Your quantum drive is amazing, but it's got the same basic problem Earth's fusion reactors had a century ago. The containment field is stuck in a feedback loop." A younger Loraxian engineer stepped forward, her curiosity apparently stronger than her fear. "I'm Lyra, Junior Systems Specialist. What do you mean by feedback loop?" Marcus smiled, glad someone was willing to listen. "The field is trying to correct itself but overshooting each time. It needs a manual reset. Someone has to go in there and physically realign the coils." "Impossible," Vera declared. "Even if someone survived the radiation, the gravitational fluctuations would crush them." "I'm from Earth," Marcus reminded them. 3 times standard gravity, remember. Plus, this suit's dealt with worse." He pulled out his tablet and showed them the old fusion reactor case study. Lyra leaned in closer, her iridescent eyes widening as she followed the similarities. "He's right," she said softly. "The pattern is almost identical." Captain Eloan stepped forward. "Even if you're correct, I cannot allow you to risk your life. If something went wrong, then you'd be in exactly the same situation you're in now," Marcus pointed out. He checked his suit's seals one last time. "But if I'm right, I can have your drive stable in 20 minutes." The captain and Vera exchanged long looks. Finally, Eloan nodded. "Very well, but please be careful, Engineer Chen." Marcus grinned and pulled on his helmet. "Always am, Captain." "Lyra, would you mind monitoring the containment readings from the control panel? I might need a second pair of eyes." The young Loraxian nodded eagerly, already moving to the panel. The others backed away to a safe distance as Marcus approached the chamber door. "Just so you know," Vara called after him, "if you die in there, the paperwork will be extremely inconvenient." Marcus laughed as he cycled through the first airlock. "Well, we can't have that, can we?" The inner door opened and purple light washed over him. Time to show these aliens what a human engineer could really do. Inside the quantum drive chamber, Marcus worked quickly while purple light danced around him. Through his helmet comm, Lyra's voice provided regular updates on the containment field readings. The rest of the Loraxian crew watched through the safety window, their iridescent skin shifting between worried purple and anxious green. "Engineer Chen," Captain Eloan's voice crackled through the comm. "While you're working, there's something you should know. We're carrying vital medical supplies for the Centauri colony. If we don't arrive within 48 hours... "No pressure then," Marcus grunted, wrestling with a particularly stubborn coil. The high radiation was making his suit's joints stiff. "Lyra, what's the reading on magnetic field 3? "Still fluctuating between 82 and 87%, she replied. "But wait, what are you doing? Those movements seem very aggressive." Marcus had just given the coil housing a solid whack with his wrench. The Loraxians gasped in horror, but the stuck coil suddenly clicked into place. Sometimes you need a little percussive maintenance, he explained. Percussive maintenance. Lyra's voice was fascinated. Is this an official human engineering term? You might find it in some technical manuals, Marcus chuckled, moving to the next coil, right next to giving it the old heave-ho and turning it off and on again. Chief Engineer Vera's voice cut in sharply. This is exactly why human engineers have such a dangerous reputation. You can't just hit sophisticated equipment. Actually, Lyra interrupted, excitement in her voice. The containment readings are improving. Field 3 has stabilized at 94%. Marcus grinned inside his helmet as he continued working. The radiation was making him sweat, but he was making good progress. Lyra, you seem interested in human engineering. Want to learn a few more technical terms? Yes, please, she replied eagerly, while Vera made a sound of disapproval in the background. Well, when something's stuck, we call it being a pain in the... Marcus's lesson was interrupted by a shower of sparks from an overhead panel. He ducked just in time. Your suit's radiation shielding is at 40%, Lyra reported, worry creeping into her voice. Maybe you should come out and let it recharge. Marcus shook his head, even though she couldn't see it. No time. Those medical supplies won't deliver themselves. He reached up to the sparking panel. Besides, I'm starting to figure out your ship's personality. Personality? Several Loraxian voices asked simultaneously. Sure. Every ship has one. Yours is like a talented dancer with a sprained ankle. Graceful but hurting. Just needs a gentle touch and occasional firm encouragement. He punctuated this by carefully realigning the last coil, then giving the housing a calculated tap with his wrench. The purple light suddenly shifted to a healthy blue. The humming of the quantum drive changed pitch, becoming smoother. All containment fields stabilizing. Lyra announced excitedly. 95, 97, 99%. How did you know that would work? Experience, intuition, and good old human stubbornness, Marcus replied, making his way back to the airlock. His suit was beginning to feel uncomfortably warm. Plus, I've had plenty of practice fixing temperamental machinery. When he cycled through the airlock, he found himself facing a very different crew than before. Instead of backing away, they crowded closer, their skin now shimmering with shades of impressed blue and curious gold. That was unorthodox, Captain Eloan admitted, but effective. Though perhaps we should get you to medical to check for radiation exposure. I'm fine, Marcus assured her, removing his helmet. Though I wouldn't say no to a cup of coffee, if you have any. Coffee? Lyra asked eagerly. Is that another human engineering tool? Marcus laughed. Oh, you have no idea. It's the most important tool of all. While we take a break, want me to explain how human engineers solve problems? Lyra's skin brightened to an interested pink. Yes, though perhaps with less hitting things. No promises, Marcus winked. Sometimes hitting things is exactly what they need. The ship's mess hall was quiet except for Lyra's excited questions about human engineering. Marcus sat with his third cup of coffee, explaining Earth's approach to problem solving, while other crew members pretended not to listen from nearby tables. So humans actually plan for things to break? Lyra asked, her skin shimmering with fascination. That seems pessimistic. We call it being realistic, Marcus replied, smiling. Everything breaks eventually. The trick is making it easy to fix when it does. Suddenly, the ship shuddered. Warning lights flashed red, and a calm Loraxian voice announced, Warning. Hull breach detected in sections 12 through 15. Emergency containment failing. Captain Eloan's voice crackled over the intercom. All hands to emergency stations. Engineer Chen, we need you in Control Room 3 immediately. Marcus was already running, with Lyra close behind. They found the control room in chaos. Multiple screens showed flashing warnings, and the Loraxian crew was frantically working at their stations. The quantum drive restart triggered a power surge. Chief Engineer Vera explained quickly, her skin a pale gray with stress. It damaged several secondary systems, including the atmospheric containment grid. We're losing atmosphere through multiple breaches, Captain Eloan added. Our automated repair systems are offline, and manual sealing will take too long. Marcus studied the damage readouts. The situation was bad. Pressure was dropping in several sections, and the ship's backup systems were overwhelmed. But something about the pattern. Lyra, he called, remember what we discussed about human redundancy systems. Her eyes widened. Yes, we could reroute emergency power through the maintenance conduits. Exactly. But we'll need to do it manually. Someone has to reach the junction boxes in the affected sections. Marcus was already checking his suit's radiation readings. The levels had dropped enough to make it safe. But those sections are depressurizing. Vera protested. No Loraxian could survive the gravity fluctuations from the damaged containment field. Good thing I'm not Loraxian then, Marcus said, sealing his helmet. Lyra, can you guide me through your ship's maintenance system? The layout's different from human vessels. I'll help, she said firmly, grabbing a communication headset despite Vera's disapproving look. But you'll have to move fast. At the current rate of depressurization, we have less than 15 minutes. Then we better not waste time arguing about it. Marcus turned to Captain Eloan. Permission to save your ship, Captain. She nodded quickly. Granted. And thank you. Marcus sprinted through the corridors, following Lyra's directions in his helmet comm. The ship's artificial gravity was fluctuating wildly. One moment he felt like he weighed a ton, the next like he might float away. For a Loraxian, it would have been crippling. For someone used to Earth's gravity, it was merely annoying. First junction box should be on your left. Lyra guided him. But be careful, that section's almost completely depressurized. Marcus found the panel and yanked it open. Inside, the Loraxian technology looked more like art than engineering, but he was starting to understand its logic. Okay, talk me through the rerouting sequence. Working together, they began bypassing the damaged systems. Marcus's hands moved quickly, following Lyra's instructions while adding his own human engineering tricks. Warning alerts continued to flash, but the rate of atmosphere loss began to slow. It's working, Lyra exclaimed. But wait. Marcus, I'm reading a power spike in the next section. The containment field is about to. The explosion cut off her words, and Marcus felt himself thrown against the wall as that section of the ship began to tear itself apart. Marcus's environmental suit automatically stiffened to protect him from the impact. Through the ringing in his ears, he heard Lyra's panicked voice. Marcus, please respond. Are you all right? Still here, he grunted, pushing himself up. His suit's display showed damage to the left arm servos, but the seal was holding. What's our situation? The explosion destroyed Section 16. Lyra's voice shook. Emergency bulkheads are failing. We have maybe 5 minutes before we lose the entire deck. Marcus looked around. The explosion had warped the corridor walls, and sparks flew from damaged systems. Most of his repair tools were scattered across the floor. What was left of it? Through a crack in the hull, he could see stars. Send me the structural damage report, he said, already gathering what tools he could salvage. A plan was forming in his mind, but it was crazy even by human standards. Sending now. But what are you? Lyra paused as she saw what he was doing through his suit's camera. No. You can't go into that section. It's completely exposed to space. Someone has to stabilize those bulkheads, Marcus replied, checking his suit's magnetic boots. Otherwise, this whole deck will tear apart. But all our repair equipment is designed for Loraxian use, Captain Eloan cut in. Even if you reach the bulkheads, you can't. Then I'll improvise. Marcus pulled a length of emergency sealant cable from the wall. Lyra, remember what I said about human engineering? Sometimes you have to work with what you've got. He could hear multiple voices arguing over the comm, but Lyra's cut through them. Wait, I have an idea. Marcus, what if we use your repair drone? The one you were testing when you found us. Marcus blinked. In all the excitement, he'd almost forgotten about his drone. It's still in my ship. Can you access the docking bay controls? Already done, Lyra said quickly. I'm bringing it to you now. But how will you control it in these conditions? I won't, Marcus said, bracing himself against another gravity fluctuation. You will. Me? Lyra's voice squeaked. But I don't know how. Yes, you do. You've been learning human engineering all day. The drone's controls are simple, just like that simulation game you mentioned earlier. As if on cue, his drone appeared around the corner, hovering steadily despite the chaotic conditions. Marcus quickly attached the sealant cables to it. Okay, Lyra, listen carefully. You'll be my hands while I handle the heavy work. These bulkheads need both precision and strength, perfect for a human Loraxian team. Working together, they began their desperate repair effort. Marcus used his suit's enhanced strength to hold failing structural supports in place, while Lyra delicately maneuvered the drone to apply emergency seals. The other Loraxians watched in amazement through the drone's camera feed. Your species is either insanely brave or just insane, Vera commented as Marcus physically braced a buckling support beam. Probably both, Marcus laughed, despite the strain. But it works. Lyra, ready with that next seal? Ready, she replied, her confidence growing as she guided the drone through another perfect application. The structural integrity is improving. We're actually doing it. They worked in perfect sync, human strength and Loraxian precision, combining in ways neither species had tried before. Slowly but surely, the damage was brought under control. As the last seal was applied, the emergency warnings finally ceased. A cheer went up from the control room, and Marcus allowed himself to relax slightly. Now that, he said, patting his drone affectionately, is what I call proper engineering. Human ingenuity and Loraxian finesse. Not bad for a day's work. Lyra's happy laugh came through the comm. Does this mean I'm officially the human-style engineer now? After this, Marcus grinned inside his helmet. You're definitely qualified for the crazy part. Back in the control room, Marcus studied the ship's main display with a frown. They'd stopped the immediate crisis, but the quantum drive readings were becoming unstable again. Beside him, Lyra's skin had shifted to a worried pale blue. The emergency repairs put too much strain on the power grid, she explained, pointing to the fluctuating energy patterns. We need to synchronize the new power flow with the ship's eye, or the drive will fail again. And this time, it won't be a gentle failure, Chief Engineer Vera added grimly. A cascade overload would destroy the ship. Captain Eloan stepped forward. How long do we have? 20 minutes, maybe less, Marcus answered, already running calculations in his head. We need to manually adjust the power flow while simultaneously recalibrating the eye's control systems. That's impossible, Vera protested. The synchronization has to be perfect down to the millisecond. Even our most skilled engineers couldn't. Good thing you have a human engineer then, Marcus interrupted. We're pretty good at doing impossible things. He turned to Lyra. Remember how you controlled the drone? This is similar, but more complex. I'll handle the physical adjustments in the drive room, while you work with the AI from here. But the radiation levels are still dangerous. Lyra's skin pulsed with concern. Your suit hasn't fully recharged from the last time. Marcus checked his suit readings. She was right. The radiation shielding was only at 60%. It would have to be enough. No choice. Those medical supplies need to reach the colony, and we're running out of time. Captain Eloan studied him for a moment, then nodded. What do you need from us? Keep the ship stable, and be ready to evacuate if this goes wrong. He turned to Lyra. You're the key to this working. The AI trusts you. It needs to accept the new power settings instantly when I make the adjustments. Lyra's skin firmed into a determined golden hue. I won't let you down. Marcus jogged to the drive room, his boots heavy on the deck plates. Inside, the quantum core pulsed with an angry red light now. His radiation detector screamed a warning as he approached the control panel. Ready when you are, he said into his comm. Remember, we have to time this perfectly. Initiating AI interface, Lyra replied, her voice steady despite the pressure. Synchronization in 3, 2, 1. Marcus's hands flew over the controls, making microsecond adjustments. Each change had to be perfect. Too slow, and the system would crash. Too fast, and the AI wouldn't keep up. Sweat dripped down his face as the radiation began seeping through his weakened suit. Power flow at 40% synchronization. Lyra reported. 60%. Marcus, your radiation exposure is reaching critical levels. Can't stop now, he grunted, fighting to keep his hands steady as the drive's energy field intensified. How's the AI responding? 80% synchronized, but a warning alarm cut her off. No, the AI is rejecting the new patterns. Marcus could feel the heat now, even through his suit. The quantum drive was starting to overload. They had seconds, not minutes, to get this right. Time for some human improvisation. Lyra, he called, his voice strained. Remember what I said about ship personalities. Tell the AI what we're doing. Not in code. Talk to it like you'd talk to a friend who's hurt. Make it understand. What? But that's not how AI interfaces. Trust me. The drive's light was turning purple again. Sometimes machines just need a human touch, or in this case, a Loraxian one. For a moment, Lyra hesitated. Everything she'd learned about AI systems told her this was nonsense, but everything she'd learned about human engineering today had seemed impossible too. Taking a deep breath, she placed her hands on the AI interface panel. Its surface sparkled with mural patterns, responding to her touch as it always had. But this time, instead of sending code sequences, she spoke from her heart. Hello, old friend, she said softly. I know you're hurting. The changes we're making feel wrong, dangerous, but we're trying to help you heal. This human, Marcus, he understands machines in a different way. His methods seem strange, but they work. Trust us. Trust me. The AI's pattern swirled, considering. In the drive room, Marcus watched his radiation warning climb into the red zone. Whatever you're doing, he said through gritted teeth, keep doing it. Lyra's skin glowed with emotional colors as she continued. Remember when I first started working with you? How patient you were teaching me your systems. Now I need you to be brave and try something new. Please. The AI's patterns suddenly shifted, forming new configurations. On Marcus's control panel, the rejection warnings disappeared. It's working, Lyra exclaimed. AI synchronization resuming. 85%, 90%. Marcus's fingers danced over the controls, fighting through the radiation sickness he could feel building. Just a few more adjustments. 95% synchronized. Lyra called out. Marcus, get out of there. Your suit's radiation shielding is almost gone. Not yet. He input the final sequence, his vision starting to blur. Have to. Finish. 100% synchronization achieved. Lyra's voice was triumphant. The quantum drive is stabilizing. Marcus, you did it. Marcus. The human engineer stumbled away from the control panel, his suit's warnings screaming. He made it 3 steps before his legs gave out. The last thing he heard was the ship's AI, speaking through the comm in its melodious voice. New parameters accepted. Quantum drive functioning at optimal efficiency. Thank you, Lyra. Thank you, Marcus. He woke up in the medical bay, surrounded by softly glowing medical equipment. His body ached, that the worst effects of the radiation had been treated by Loraxian biotechnology. Lyra sat nearby, her skin a happy mix of pink and gold. "You're finally awake," she said, leaning forward. "The doctors say you'll make a full recovery, though they're quite confused about how your body handled radiation levels that should have been lethal." Human stubbornness. Marcus managed a weak smile. Did it work? The drive. "Better than new," Captain Eloan said, entering the room. "We're back on course to deliver the medical supplies with time to spare. The AI has even incorporated your modifications into its base programming. It seems to have developed quite an appreciation for human engineering methods." Speaking of appreciation, Chief Engineer Vera added, following the captain, "I suppose I owe you an apology. Your methods may be unconventional, but they're undeniably effective." High praise. Marcus chuckled, then winced. "Though maybe next time we can fix the ship with fewer near-death experiences." "Next time?" Lyra's skin brightened hopefully. "Well," Marcus said, "someone needs to teach you more about human engineering. Can't let you go around thinking all our technical terms involve hitting things." "Though some of them do," Lyra added with a grin. "Some of them do," Marcus agreed. "But first, please tell me you have more of that amazing Loraxian coffee. I think I've earned it." The medical bay filled with laughter, human and Loraxian together, bridging the gap between worlds with friendship, respect, and a shared love of solving impossible problems. 3 months later, Marcus stood before the Galactic Engineering Council, trying not to fidget in his formal uniform. The council chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of species, all curious about the human who had revolutionized Loraxian ship repair techniques. "Let me get this straight," said the Voltaren council chief, their crystalline form glittering with confusion. "You fixed a quantum drive with a wrench." "Among other tools," Marcus replied diplomatically. Behind him, he heard Lyra trying not to laugh. She was there as his assistant now, her skin glowing with professional pride. The important part was combining human practical knowledge with Loraxian technical expertise. Captain Eloan stepped forward. She had become one of Marcus's strongest supporters after the incident. The repair techniques Engineer Chen developed have already been successfully implemented on 3 other vessels. The combination of human innovation and Loraxian precision has reduced repair times by 60%. The council members murmured among themselves. Finally, the Voltaren spoke again. "And what of the concerns about human engineers being too aggressive in their methods?" "If I may." Lyra stepped forward, her skin shimmering with confidence. "I've been studying human engineering principles for the past 3 months. What looks like aggression is actually carefully controlled force, applied with precise timing. Humans understand machines on an instinctive level we never considered. Which is why," Captain Eloan added, "we're proposing a new cross-species engineering program. Combining human intuition with Loraxian technology could revolutionize ship maintenance across the galaxy." The council chamber erupted in discussion. Marcus used the moment to whisper to Lyra, "Nice speech. Been practicing." "A human taught me the importance of clear communication," she whispered back, "usually involving coffee." The council chief raised their crystalline appendages for silence. "We have reached a decision. Engineer Chen, you will be appointed as the first cross-species engineering consultant. Your methods will be taught at the Loraxian Technical Academy, with appropriate safety modifications." "Thank you," Marcus said, then grinned. "Though I should warn you, some of our best engineering still involves hitting things carefully." Later, in the Academy's new Human Loraxian Collaborative Workshop, Marcus watched as Lyra demonstrated proper percussive maintenance technique to a group of fascinated Loraxian students. His repair drone hovered nearby, now modified with both human and Loraxian technology. "Remember," Lyra was saying, her skin flickering with teaching colors, "human engineering isn't just about force. It's about understanding the soul of the machine. Sometimes that soul needs a gentle touch, sometimes it needs a firm hand. And sometimes She gave the practice panel a perfect tap with her wrench, making it spring to life. Sometimes it just needs a wake-up call. The student's skin shifted through shades of amazement as the panel's efficiency readings jumped to optimal levels. Marcus smiled, remembering his own first repair on the Starlight Serenity. Who would have thought a simple distress call would lead to this? His communicator beeped. Another emergency repair request, this time from a Voltaren cruise ship. He checked the details and grinned. "Hey, Lyra," he called. "Want to show your students some real-world application?" Her skin brightened to excited gold. "Class, it seems we have a practical exam. Who's ready to learn how humans and Loraxians fix ships together?" Every student hand went up, their skin glowing with enthusiasm. As they gathered their tools, both human and Loraxian, Marcus couldn't help but feel proud. The galaxy was changing, one repair job at a time, proving that even the biggest differences could be bridged with understanding, respect, and occasionally, a well-placed wrench. After all, that's what human engineering was all about: finding solutions, making friends, and never giving up until the job was done, no matter how impossible it seemed. And now, thanks to one desperate repair job in deep space, the rest of the galaxy was starting to understand that too.